to Simpler. We are three pastors, husbands, and fathers on a journey to make life simpler by holding Jesus as the core for every belief and practice. This journey has shaped us to be more like Christ, freed us from the shame of failure, and encouraged us to a deeper love of our Lord and God. We invite you to join us in the discussions that have shaped and continue to shape our lives.
My favorite thing to do is ask Ryan what he got for a present before his birthday or Christmas. What'd you get? You did one time I did that and you like smoothly moved on to something else.
Yeah.
And it was like a really good way to.
Yeah.
There was one time. So like
Sometimes I think quickly.
especially when we record like really far in advance, my culture corners are pretty generic. They're not like not like on the money exactly that week. But for some reason, someone like thought that they pulled me aside. It was one of our youth. This was last year. He was like, "You said during your sermon that like yesterday you guys recorded like 4 episodes." He was like, "What?" He was like, "You guys record every week though, right?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about?" He was like, "Dude, your culture corners." He's like, "They're always so relevant. Like what? How do you know what's going to happen in the world?" And I was like,
awesome.
"You should pay more attention, man, because it's not that specific to a timeline."
Well, you know what's awesome though is it's kind of the Matthew 24 thing where every year is the end times because there's wars and rumors of wars and famine and discontent and you're like, oh my goodness, look, it's happening. And you're like, yeah, have you paid attention to
What are you talking about?
That's already pushed. We're good on that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I started everything.
Everything's
We're
ready.
good.
We just sat here for 20 minutes.
I always have a mini heart attack. Well, I thought we were doing the intro to the episode.
You're not going to be able to transfer this video to yourself because it's going to be too long.
I know. Well, the same thing with the last one. We had an opening conversation for a while, so I'm going to have to trim them all down.
Yep.
It's okay. The listener doesn't care about that. Let's go over to the PCC. Woohoo. Let's go to Pierce's Culture Corner, everybody. And this one is a very timely and relevant.
Okay.
Just kidding. This video came out over a month ago at this point. But my PCC, the Culture Corner, is about a video. You guys familiar, or do you guys know who Mr. Beast is?
Yes.
Biggest YouTuber.
I can't wait for this culture corner.
I know, it's great. So Mr. Beast has a part of his company. I never know if it's because they just call his name is Jimmy, is the main guy on Mr. Beast. They call him Mr. Beast, but I don't know if Mr. Beast is the name of the company. I'm still getting familiarized with it, but people usually call him Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's all the brand. It's the whole brand.
Yeah. So like there's Mr. Beast philanthropy. I always mispronounce that word, but philanthropy, which is the efforts of the Mr. Beast company to have charitable events, to go give back to communities, pour in, basically utilizing their now over $1 billion company to pour back into, to do charitable things and stuff like that. I shouldn't say it that way. He's always been pretty charitable.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say now. I don't mean that now that he's made this much,
It's
he's
a structured,
giving.
he's putting structure to the giving by making the part of the company that's a philanthropist.
Exactly. Yeah. So within that, they released a video, and they released it on his main channel. So at the time that I watched it, this video had 78 million views. It was on the main channel. Dude, he'll have like over 20 to 50 million in a day. Like he'll drop a video hours later, over 50 million. It's insane. So, but this one was Mr. Beast building 100 wells in Africa.
Water
Right.
wells.
Water wells, excuse me. What's a different well?
Like
Oil wells.
he built whales.
Is that Dory?
Yeah. I didn't know you spoke whale. Oil wells. I don't know why I blanked on that. I was like, there's only water wells. What are you even talking about?
Gas
He built,
wells.
yeah. So he built 100 water wells in Africa. And in the midst of that as well, did you guys see that video by chance?
I saw headlines about
I
it.
got you. Yeah. So
My first thought was, as much money as you have, you only did 100.
right. Why isn't the whole world covered in water, Mr. Beast?
Michelle and I did a water well once for some people, and we don't have a lot of extra money. So
Look at
I'm
that.
thinking,
You're
like,
part of the problem. Look at this culture corner, man. You're part of the criticism. So anyway, so just to give a headline to give you a synopsis of the video, he goes to 100 different places, and some of them some of the wells are like within the same country or like within connecting villages and stuff. And some of them are vastly like miles apart. Like I think at one point he traveled like over 1,000 miles to go from one village to another village to where he's doing the next one. So there's a lot of different places around Africa, and he highlights and explains where he's going every place. He talks about the village. He talks about the people. He talks about the schools. Like he's talking about, he's talking about the community that he's going to pour into. And it's not just wells that he does in this video. He interacts with several schools, and there's one school where they upgraded their whole computer room, so got them all new computers. There's another school where he updated all of their chalkboards to be whiteboards, but also to have the capability to have screens on them. That way, if they needed to use the projectors, they could use projectors. And so he's updating schools as he's going along. There was one village they went to where he learned that the children were having to walk miles every day to get to school, and so he got like over 100 bikes to be able to give to all the children. That way, they could get to school more effectively. There's another town he went to where there's a bridge that's connecting two villages, and basically there's a village on one side and then everything else that this village needs on the other side of this river. And during the dry season, it's no big deal, but during the wet season, that river fills up like crazy, and they're having to basically rebuild a bridge every year because the bridge keeps breaking. And so he built a more sustainable bridge for that. And then some of the wells are solar powered. Like it's really interesting to see kind of all the stuff that went into it. And what made me go back and watch it, I don't watch every Mr. Beast video. I find him entertaining, but I have nothing against him. I just didn't watch this one. But what drew me to it was all these negative headlines about the fact that he built all these wells. And so first thought, just not going in, is like, that sounds like a good thing. What's going on? What's going wrong? And so I read an article. I read a few posts. One post that I saw, every single thing about it was wrong. So I was like, I can't take. What sucks is this is getting traction, because what one of the posts said was that he paints the picture that every single African is basically like just lives in huts. They don't do anything. They have nothing to be a part of civilization or anything like that. And that was not the case whatsoever. He went to schools that have computers and he helped them upgrade their systems. He went to places that, like, it wasn't like he walked into these complete idiots that they were living in the Stone Age, and he had to bring up, like, he took the existing stuff they had and upgraded it, and he helped give them some funding and stuff like that. But some of the other criticisms, one of the ones that I copy and pasted from this article published by Yahoo News. So there's a prominent activist, and I couldn't even try to pronounce this name, but if you're interested, let me know, who contrasted against Jimmy Donaldson, who is Mr. Beast, his actions, saying that about the Kenyan government, saying that we are a shameful, horrible country, a begging nation that is governed by millionaires. And so he actually, and I won't give you all of this word for word, but I have this. Basically what he's saying is this highlights the fact that the Kenyan government should have been taking care of the schools, should have been taking care of some of these things, should have been providing better water, but instead they're pouring their money into their politicians. And so he exposes some of the things about the politicians. And so what's interesting about that is he took it as a platform. Who
exposes it?
This activist named Boniface Mwangi. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but that's what they have.
You don't subscribe to that guy on YouTube?
I don't, man. I'm so sorry. But he says it's embarrassing that a YouTuber had to come fix some of the stuff that the Kenyan government should have fixed.
That's fair.
Which, again, it's interesting. That doesn't
feel like a criticism.
I know, but that's what stinks about it is people will take this commentary and say, Mr. Beast trashes the Kenyan government.
I see.
That's not what he's doing.
Right.
His actions have led people to say,
have revealed the shortcomings.
So, but that's the way people are doing it. And same thing with this one, a little bit easier. Saran Kaba Jones, who is the founder and CEO of Face Africa. She said that she's been, I'm assuming that's a she. I don't know if there's any pronouns in this. She just says we a bunch. They, I have no idea if it's a man or a woman, but have been trying to build wells for years, but they lack funding, they lack awareness, they lack these things, and then criticize. Well, it took a rich white YouTuber to come in and take care of this.
That's the one I saw,
and I was like,
and it was a rich white man. Like, that's when I was like, really?
Right. So I guess it is a woman who's having these. But then later in the article, it said that she praised Mr. Beast for shining a spotlight on the need for clean water. And so, but you started it off by being like, this sucks, which I understand. You've been working really hard and you haven't seen the progress that he saw within 2 weeks.
Short period. Yeah.
I understand how that can be frustrating for you, but don't make your press release about that. Make your press release about the fact that this good work is being done. And I saw later as well that some of stuff was exposed about her was that her, and this was just on Twitter, or excuse me, on X, that she raised over $130,000 for wells, but ended up spending $83,000 on her and her staff. So some of the stuff about her had come out as well, which is interesting, but it becomes a criticism about Mr. Beast. But what's interesting as well, and I'll wrap this up real quick, is that the day he posted it, Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast, said on Twitter, X, golly, knows I'm not, he says, I know I'm going to get canceled because I uploaded a video of helping people, and to be 100% clear, I don't care. And then he says, he follows it up by saying, I'm always going to use my channel to help people and to try to inspire my audience to do the same. And he also highlighted as well, because as I'm watching, I was like, yeah, this is really cool. But like, this video has 78 million views. How much money is pouring in from this video?
Well, he got kicked back on the helping people with their eyes thing too.
Yeah, which was insane. Like that, just paying for that was it cataract surgery, which literally helping blind people see, like around just a basic surgery he was able to help with. Same thing with these wells. It's a pretty basic process. Yeah. But people don't have the means to make it happen. So he took the tools to go make it happen. If I had
gone, and if I'd gotten money and gone and done those wells, someone would have complained about it. They just wouldn't have said a rich white man.
Yeah.
They would have said a poor brown. They would have said,
who's this Mexican man?
Yeah, that's right.
I like his videos where he sets up a one-day car lot. Have you seen those? So he'll have like 30 cars out there, and he'll have an office space. He rents out a parking lot. He puts up a sign, and he says car lot. And people come in, and he's like, and they're nice cars. They're in good shape. They're not beaters. And he's like, all right, what car are you interested in? And he has his friends working it. And they take the person out there, and the person's like, I really like this one. Okay, well, let's take it for a drive. And they take it for a drive, and they come back, and they're like, are you interested? And they're like, well, yeah, how much is it? And they're like, well, is this the car you like? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, all right, here's the keys, and here's the title. I just need you to sign there. It's yours.
That's dope.
And they give away the whole car lot throughout the day, And I just think that's so sick. I love it.
It's cool, right? So, I mean, this isn't like I'm not trying to make this Culture Corner be like you guys need to lay off of Mr. Beast. I don't know the ins and outs of the company. I can only take him at his word. I can take these other people who make press releases at their word. But I think it goes to show like this, based off of the footage of the villages and the people that are helped in Africa, they are happy to be helped. Like we need water. We need
the
effective
option?
I know exactly. We need
not
effective
water wells.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we need proper ways to get to school. We need a bridge that can work year round. Like these are all things that they needed, and the needs were met. And what sucks is people aren't looking at the needs being met. They're just taking the opportunity to either have a headline, or even if it's legit criticism, like it taints the good that is happening. So it's just interesting to see that this is where we are in culture. And even he was aware of it. Like, hey, I'm going to get crap for this, but I'm going to help people as much as I can help people, which is cool to see. It's neat to see.
And then he does videos where he gives his friend, I want to say it was $100,000 in cash. And there's a spot on the ground, and he says, this is the spot. It can be vertically higher, but this is the spot where the money's going to be. And he 20 yards out, all the way around, he plants C4 and dynamite. He hasn't done it yet, and he goes, in 3 days, I'm blowing this up. However much money survives, you get to keep. Here's my credit card. Do whatever you want to do to try to protect the money. And the guy brings in concrete barriers and water barrels and like everything, and builds this massive thing around the money. And then the end of the video is the money shot, and it blows up. Everything blows up, and they go in there, and there's things on fire and stuff, and they spray it out. And I think he lost $3,000. He got to keep
wow.
Yeah. Wow. So
you see, that's more money that could have gone to wells. This guy just keeps getting worse and worse, man.
Jerk.
Worse and worse. Ryan, what are we talking about today, man?
Today, well, we're talking about Mr. Beast protein bars.
Yeah, that's right.
What a coincidence.
This episode's brought to you by Feastables.
I think we should talk about the chocolate bar he made.
The Feastables.
I don't know that one.
Oh, is that the one?
He has a chocolate bar called These Nuts.
It was in response to the Hershey's thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's funny.
They ran a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah.
He said, we can't afford to run a Super Bowl commercial, or we're not willing to spend the money on it. He goes, so we're just doing our own Super Bowl commercial, and it ran on X and YouTube during the Super Bowl.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's cool. No, today, I mean, look, we're 6 days away from Christmas. Today, we're going to talk about Christmas and the glory of God. Want to talk a little bit about what does it look like for us in a very busy time for us. For some people, a happy time. For some people, maybe a sadder time. You've lost someone you love this year, or you're estranged from family. But how do, in the midst of all this, if you have kids with Christmas trees and presents and all the different traditions, how do we make sure that we're also considering the beauty of Christ in this moment?
But Ryan, Christmas is just about getting presents and feeling good, right?
Well, actually, Pierce, no. Ugh. So there we go. Thanks for listening. You know what? I really don't like. 3 years ago, we talked about this in Christmas, or 2 years ago, we talked about like the origins of it. And I really don't like the extreme kickback that some Christians will do. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to do a tree. I'm not going to do presents. I'm not doing stockings. And I mean, I think enjoy the season. I don't hear very many Christians talk about, a rejection of gluttony at Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they're just getting fatter. And so you know what I mean? Like, it's just funny to me. And people at this point, I know Christians get really ticked. Some Christians get really ticked because the person says happy holidays to you or whatever instead of, it's like, no, it's Merry Christmas. And it's just like, oh my gosh, shut up. So I get really tired of the polarizing kind of thing around Christmas. I just want to talk about it from the standpoint of, I'm a Christian. I have kids. We have traditions that we do where we make and paint cookies every year. And then the kids eat almost every cookie that they made and painted, right after they come out of the oven. It's a lot of fun.
The kids in the oven?
Yeah, the kids pop right out of the oven eating the cookies.
Man.
And if you're not careful, those kids in the oven will pop out and steal your cookies.
Brutal Christmas traditions. Get in the oven, kids.
You don't turn it on, but it's just symbolic of their birth.
There you go. And now you get a cookie.
No. So we do these cookies every year, and we've started having their cousins spend the night, and it's fun. And then one of the things that we do is, because Michelle and I both like to give gifts, and we can't quite we can't wait till Christmas. Mm-hmm. So what we started doing years ago for our sake is,
so funny.
I know, is giving little gifts in their stockings for like the 7 days leading up to Christmas. Yeah. And it helps me because I'm really the gift giver in the family.
So you're not giving them all the gifts?
No.
Okay. I thought you were about to say like, we can't handle having all those gifts. So we're just give them all.
I would want to. So we created this so that I wouldn't, right?
What's so funny is like, you can't wait to give them, but you would totally ruin Christmas. Like, hey, Christmas morning, you're like, I got nothing.
We got nothing this morning. Might as well sleep in tomorrow, kids, because we don't have any. Yeah. But like, so what we do is we have little gifts that go in their stockings so that when they wake up in the morning, for the days leading up to Christmas, they get these like little appetizers almost. So we have a lot of fun things that we do. Michelle absolutely loves decorating for Christmas, and I'm indifferent to it, but she really enjoys it. So I really enjoy it for her and like helping her do that. But I also, as a Christian, I want us to think about Jesus, and I want us to remember that the thing that we're celebrating is that there was a promise that God made to send a Savior into the world, and this is the beginning of that. Like, this is Jesus's birth is this introduction of the Savior, an introduction of of redemption to the world. Like, it had been foretold. We talked about the importance of the Old Testament a few weeks back, and it had been foretold and it had been promised, and now here it is. And so, wanting to do that. So, like one of the traditions, every Christmas Eve we do with Michelle's family, and then Christmas is just our day. Every family kind of does their own thing. But one of the things that we've done is that we have we always read the Christmas story before we open presents with Michelle's family, and just take a moment to pray and just remember what we're thankful for. And like, I'm talking like 5 minutes, like, but just to take that moment to just let our thoughts be on Jesus. Yeah. One of the things that we've done the last couple of Christmases, we've done it for a few times, is we'll bake, we have Christmas cinnamon rolls we really enjoy, and we will typically invite, and sometimes people come and sometimes they don't, but we will typically invite people over for breakfast on Christmas Day, around 10, when we know that we're going to be done with everything, and I'll do pancakes and cinnamon rolls and bacon, and just say, hey, come over and have a cup of coffee with us. And so we've tried to invite people and so like trying to show people grace and kindness. So like, I think that there's something to it, and I don't know that we can make a rule about it, but I think that there is a way in the midst of all the busyness, and let's just be honest, for some people, it's a very sad time of the year. It's a very discouraging time of the year. How do you take this moment when you've suffered deep loss this year or last year, that your heart's still broken, when someone you cared about, your family, is gone?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you take this moment and still bring it about to Christ? We say keep Christ as core. What could be simpler than that? We say that every week. What does it look like for us to, as Christians, keep Christ as core? One of my favorite things that we did last year as a church was the daily Advent readings. Mm-hmm. And I just pulled all of them up and I've started reviewing them. I really wanted to rewrite them, but with the videos that Colin and I are doing, I don't have time to rewrite them this year. And I don't expect everybody to remember every reading from last year, so we can use them one more time, and then I want to rewrite them. But like, we did the Advent readings with our family every night.
Why are you pulling the Advent readings out in mid-December?
No. Like, yeah, sorry. It's already Christmas. Yeah. We've already been doing it.
You guys have been doing it.
Yeah. You guys have been doing it.
As you know.
I ruined the illusion. So it's on me today. Yeah, but we're just like, I really wanted to rewrite that for this year, and just realized I couldn't. And so, but I think that even something as simple as that, this reading with our family, and we did it last year, and just to focus our attention on Christ. And so
that I think is a perspective shift that is like to answer your question about like, how do you go into this season if it causes maybe like sadness or depression, as a believer? I'll just say as a believer, I think it's important to remember that this is about Jesus.
Yeah.
So like you're feeling sadness over family, you're feeling sadness over maybe experiences you had as a child or even as an adult. And I get that from a cultural perspective of like, I'm supposed to be engaging in this way. Example, the old dude in the first Home Alone, who's not getting to spend Christmas with his family. Like he's sad and he's just like trying to keep busy because he's, like, that's what I mean. There are people who that's the experience. He goes into
I love that you went into that deep dive
Christmas.
right there. Yeah.
He goes into the church because he can't see his granddaughter in person. So this is as close as he can get to his so like there's a lot of people in that place. So as believers, like how do we navigate that without it being something that just crushes us? I think it's remembering that while those are things we tend to do at this time of year, this is ultimately about Jesus. So like while you might experience the feelings of sorrow and depression and sadness, in reality, if you put those in the perspective of who you are in Christ, they begin to fade.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they go away.
Sure.
But they diminish when they are put up, if you will, in the viewpoint of Jesus. Because no matter what happens in this life, if you recognize the beauty of the life you have in Christ, then in the midst of the sadness and sorrow and sometimes depression, you can be reminded of who you actually are in Christ. And that's what brings you out of it. That's what brings you the joy in the midst of the sadness. So I'll say that like, I would rather my mom be here for Christmas, but I mean, she's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, while I might, for me, there's these moments like, I'll remember like these things we would do with my mom at Christmas when she was alive. One year she made crab legs for Christmas Eve, and it was like the greatest Christmas Eve.
That's awesome.
She was like, she wanted to always experiment. She always wanted to experiment, and usually it was pretty terrible when she experimented. But that one year she's like, I want to try crab legs. I've never tried it. And that's when I fell in love with crab legs. So like, I actually still want crab legs every Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
For a while, we would go to China Garden after that, even when my mom was still alive.
Yeah.
On Christmas Eve, because they had crab legs and we all wanted crab legs, and she didn't want to make them and they were super expensive. So like, I still crave crab legs.
I know
on Christmas
what I'm doing
Eve
Christmas Eve.
Crab legs it is. But like, I what's funny? I will literally wake up Christmas Eve morning and go, I want crab legs. And when I sense that, I do feel a sense of sadness. Like, I wish my mom was here, but it's
because your mom's the one that introduced that to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I don't think it means the sadness goes away. What I think it means is like, in the midst of the sadness, I can be reminded, putting that perspective up against Christ.
Yeah.
Like this is This is who I am.
I don't think it's one or the other.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I think the danger is, so let's flip it on its head and say, what if all of your moments are full of joy, and your moments this year are going to be full of joy? There is still the temptation to be, not temptation, but there is still the possibility of being so immersed in the busyness and the joy of the holiday that you also forget that it's a celebration of Christ.
Yes.
And so it's still perspective, and we wouldn't rob you of the tearful reflection on the loss, and we wouldn't rob you of the tearful reflection on the joy. I think both of those things are a human experience.
Yeah.
But for the believer, we have to also say, like, this is about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, Pierce, you have the youngest kids of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that looks way different. Obviously, your baby, like, she
has no idea.
Yeah, she doesn't know. Like, I was holding her the other night, and she didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And she was just like, this is cool. So, and
she
ripping
was like,
yeah. So, but we have the opportunity.
I do think as a parent, that might be a helpful thing. Like if you have young kids or kids in general, to help shape that for them moving forward. Like this is Seth's last Christmas as a child.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll technically be 8. I mean, he's already 18, but like this is his last Christmas at home. Doesn't mean he's not coming home for Christmas. But like, there's a potential that this might be the last time he's home for Christmas.
Yeah.
Potential. It won't be, but like there's a potential for it, right?
Yeah.
And so the question I have to ask is like, have I given him a good perspective of what life and then specifically this season is about, where as he goes as an adult and as a father, like he's able to perpetuate that mindset in his family. Like that, I think, is the important thing.
Yeah.
Like how do the people around us think about this time of year? Is it really just gifts and trees and Christmas lights, which I won't get to take down until February because I'm so busy in January? Like, is it all these things, like the happy and the sad?
Yeah.
Or is that just the season and this is ultimately about Christ? And I think that's where sometimes as parents and husbands as wives, we forget that, like, that's, I think, the important role in this season is to remind people that this is really about Jesus.
Yeah.
My mom used to wear this stupid pin, like button pin. And said Jesus is the reason for the season. And like it was just dumb, but it's so right. Like it's like I hate to say it because it's on a pin, but like
you really hate people wearing pins that express their faith because
what was that movie where it was called like swag or something on servers, like waitresses and waiters?
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a clip.
Along Came Polly. That's what it was.
Yeah. Is that what it was?
They talk about Along Came Polly. They talk about an Office Space as well, where she's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, maybe it was all connected, but I don't like pins. Anyways, but like it's just correct.
Yeah.
Like
it is correct.
In the midst of the quirkiness of my mom wearing a pin on around Christmas, like it's right. Jesus is the reason for everything.
Got a few
but
days to find your perfect Christmas gift.
Giant pin. But I think that's the important thing is like you can develop any kind of traditions you want for your family that I don't think have to be like Jesus stuff. Like you can have cookies where you put your kids in the oven and bake them with the cookies. You can have all that kind of stuff. But I do think it's a good idea to maybe have some things in the midst of those traditions that are helping point your family towards Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. We've tried because it's stuff that we're our oldest is 3, so like we're still getting used to like
the ho-hos.
What the ho-hos? Like, what does that look like for her? Because I mean, every year she gets older,
there's little Debbie snacks.
There's all the questions that go into it. Like, so like her first few years of life, there wasn't a need for her to discuss Santa Claus, but she's at that point now where she's discussing all those things, and so we're having
send
more,
her to camp that I'm preaching at.
Right. Yeah. So we're having more pointed conversations about it, but also anytime tried to train myself that anytime Christmas gets brought up, for instance, she found a Cindy Lou Who little doll from the Grinch, and she was so excited about it, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, can we watch this? Can I watch Cindy Lou Who?" And I was like, "Let me find it real quick." So we found it on Peacock. We found the newer one on Peacock, and so we watched it, and it was all like Grinch was the whole first monologue complaining about Christmas. I was like, "You know what we celebrate at Christmas?" She goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "What do we celebrate?" And she goes, and I was like, "We celebrate the birth of Jesus." She goes, "Yeah, it's Jesus' birthday." she got so excited about it. And so trying to, in that moment, that was 30 seconds. That was a little interaction.
She is so funny.
But she's ridiculous.
But it's 30 seconds that could shape the rest of her life.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And every time Christmas gets brought up, hey, you know what Christmas is about? Yeah, it's Jesus' birthday. Like, because that's for her. That's the reality for her. Like everything else is additional.
Until she's a little older and you have to break it to her that Jesus' birthday was probably later in the spring.
You should break her heart now. No, but Dad said.
Why did you lie to me, Dad?
Why did you lie to me, Dad? What's this mean about ho-ho?
No, but I think it's true. Like, even if it's not a set in stone, like we have a Advent reading for the whole month that Ryan is still trying to figure out how to do in the middle of December. But even if it's not something like that, just the reminder.
Yeah.
Periodically, like that's what it's about. You know what's funny too is I bet you're reminding yourself about that too. Because it is. I think even as pastors, like it's easy to get caught up in the chaos of all the stuff going on. Yeah,
I like that.
Even like the boys will not go to Walmart or any store with me during Christmas unless they have to. Because I go, man. I don't know why. Every store I go to, especially if I have a shopping cart, my pace is like a million miles an hour.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this months ago, and everybody just stops in your way, and you're like, "Oh my goodness!"
Is, and they stare at me when I whip around them, and they just stare at me like, "What are you doing?" And I just stare back like,
"I'm walking. I'm walking. Here's what I'm doing."
So like they don't want to go because at Christmas it's way worse with the people in the aisles, and I just like whip through, and I'm like, it's you know where you can't fix it is at the checkout line.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's bad.
I feel like sometimes when I'm in the checkout line, there's someone sticking a door frame next to me and just continually catching my belt loop over and over and over again. So I try not to go to the stores during Christmas, but just in the midst of the chaos, I think things like that. It's sometimes hard to remember. Like, man, this is an opportunity for us to just stop, take a breath, and just be reminded of the birth of our Savior. And I think that's maybe the perspective we have to have, no matter what your traditions are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm with you. Like, it feels like a worthless fight to try to change culture's perspective about Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's like wrong to have the conversation with people. I just feel like, what if we looked at this as an opportunity to talk about the good news of Jesus rather than to try to make culture.
I think you're fighting the wrong fight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I'm going to say, you know, it's funny. If someone says Happy Holidays to me, I'm going to say Merry Christmas.
Yeah. And then just leave it at that.
They can do with that what they will. And that's me because maybe I should try to do that different this year because I'm trying to be more docile.
Well, but
that one's probably not going to change.
But I don't think that that's rude. I think that there are a lot of people in our society who, if they said Happy Holidays to you and you're like, oh, yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, they're not going to be offended. Yeah. The people who are going to be offended are the people who get offended about everything. Yeah, they're going to be offended anyway. Like, and those are the people that I have a difficult time.
That's
tolerating.
what I'm going to say. Marry more Christ.
More Christ.
But it's the same thing. Like, you know, Christians will say something like, you know, I don't like it when Christians say Xmas, you know, we shouldn't say
it X's out the name of Jesus.
Right. And they're like,
it was always Elon. Elon was trying to make it about him.
Everything is X. Yeah. So, you know, people will say that. They're like, I don't use Xmas. I use Christmas because I keep Christ in Christmas. And what's funny to me is like, they don't understand that X is Chi, which is the first letter of the name Christ. And it's like, oh, come on, man. And so like, it just, I think
we're bothered by too many things in the tradition. Like, I wonder if most Protestants know that the origination of this was Christ Mass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're bothered by things that don't really have the weight. Like,
right.
Like, it's probably a lot of people know, maybe they don't, that like the origination of the Christmas tree was a German holiday where they would hang testicles of actual animals on the tree to pray for fertility to their
I still
God.
do that. Yeah.
So like it doesn't like
Got to maintain the traditions, man.
You offer a service at the end of November to spay and neuter people's pets.
That's right. Yeah.
Just so you have your decorations
It's all
for
free.
your
Yeah,
trees.
exactly. I'll take care of it for free. I just trying to keep the tradition alive.
so like there's if you were gonna say I'm gonna fight all these battles, in my mind you have to fight all the battles.
Absolutely.
Right,
Which means that you're changing it completely, or you could just say, listen, there are aspects of this cultural holiday that are not actually a representation of Jesus. And you could interact within the culture that is just celebrating a special holiday and say, man, can I tell you the good news about Jesus? Like, here's what it means that he came.
Yeah, like if we're going to make the Christmas season, like a lot of people who are trying to, quote, keep Christ in Christmas are making it, like you said, just about all these petty traditions and customs rather than about the intent that what we're doing is we're celebrating the coming Savior. That's what we're celebrating.
You know what? You can't, no matter what culture does, you can't take Christ out of a celebration of Christ.
You can't.
So what they're ultimately trying to say, keep Christ in Christmas, is like, let's not make this about something other than Jesus. I understand that push, which I'm going to celebrate the birth of Jesus no matter what culture does.
Sure.
Not that I have to. I don't think it's a biblical mandate to do
agreed.
that, but I'm going to do it as long as it's still a thing that we do. I'm going to continue to do it. I'm still going to celebrate his death.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like there's things I will continue to meet with the assembly of believers on Sunday mornings. Or whenever we meet. You know what I mean? Like there's things I will
continue to meet.
Yeah. There were things I will continue to do no matter what culture does. If the government says it's illegal for us to meet on or to meet, to celebrate, to worship together, I will still do it.
Yeah, we'll
that's
find
what I
a way to
mean.
do
It's
it,
like so it's not like that would be like saying the government needs to keep church in church. Like they can do whatever the heck they want to do, and I'm still gonna worship my God with other
100%.
believers.
Yeah. And we can, I think, have differing opinions about cookies and stockings and trees and whatever. Like we never did Santa with our kids. And I mean, I don't really care that there are people who do. It doesn't bother me. I never felt like it was something that I was trying to make a point on.
Right.
It was just something that we didn't do.
We do brown Santa.
Yeah, you do. And he's like, ho, ho, ho.
My God. Why do brown people talk like that? That sounds more like Fat Albert from back in the day than it does like
that's exactly what I had pictured in my head.
Wow. Racism alert, everybody.
Because he's got the big red shirt. Remember?
I do remember that now, yeah.
Like, it's Bill Cosby being Fat Albert.
Well, there you go. That's
the problem.
First racism, now Bill Cosby. What are you doing, man?
That's funny.
But I think that we can...
Yeah. You know, brown Santa. Oh, ho, ho. It's so good, man.
It's just funny that was your first instinct.
And you like jumped into it too. You were 100% committed to it.
I couldn't help it.
And what I mean by brown Santa is they know that I'm Santa.
Right.
So they leave out Dr. Pepper and sugar cookies.
Do you want Ryan to dress up as Black Albert now?
You said Black Albert.
Fat Albert, excuse me.
On Christmas morning, I'm gonna wake my boys up by going, ho, ho, ho.
I want Ryan to be outside their window in a full outfit. Yeah,
And Pierce dress up like Black Albert.
like Black Albert. Yeah,
I'm crying and I'm sweaty and wow.
That was like the greatest thing you've ever done on the podcast, Ryan.
Now I get canceled, but
yeah. There we go.
That's really funny. I will say this. Seriously.
can you get us back on track?
I do still struggle. I'm willing to have the conversation still about it, but I do still struggle with the idea of perpetuating a lie.
Oh, 100%.
I agree with
about Santa, because I think you can do the Santa thing without making it real.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I totally understand. I don't want my kids to be like the weird kids who are like, we've never heard of Santa Claus. I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Right.
Why did I say it like that? I don't know.
You never heard of Santa Claus, eh?
But
now we're just all doing voices.
It's all accents now. Yeah.
But I don't like the idea of like I remember this. I remember as a kid, I was at some family member's house and we were in their front yard and it was like Christmas Eve, I think, at night. And they were like, "Oh, was that Santa's sleigh? Did you see that in the sky?" Like they're like literally trying to make me look for the sleigh. And like, I don't like the idea of perpetuating a lie like that. Yeah. You could do all the celebration, all the story without making it like a real thing. Yeah. I get it that that's my opinion, but it's a very strong opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you feel very strongly about it. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
We talked about that specifically with, there's a Christmas movie that both Hannah and I enjoy. I think it came out the year we got married, maybe a year after that, but it's called Claus. It's a Netflix original. It was up for a few Academy Awards. It's a really cool animated movie. It's a fun Christmas story, and it centers around, they try to make like an origin story of Santa Claus, which like they hint at like, this is what we did in this one town. It's not really the thing, but at the very end, it has like the magical whatever. And so we were like, well, we really want to watch that movie, but like, how does that work with Riley? Just like, we don't want to bring that confusion. We don't bring, because the culture we're in perpetuates that lie. Yeah. And so we're just, but my first response is like, we watch the movie because we watch other movies with her. Like, we're not worried about whether or not she thinks
Star Wars
Toy Story is
really,
I know. She's not worried about her toys coming to life every night because of Toy Story. Like, so like we can still watch the movie and enjoy a movie. Yeah. Like without it having to be real, without it having to be us making it real for her. Yeah, that makes sense.
The only difference being, like what you've already just said, Micah, is that there's a cultural presentation of it that presents him as real. Yeah. And there isn't a cultural presentation of like Toy Story.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So just learning to navigate that for sure.
I mean, the fix is, instead of watching that, you just watch Die Hard with your kids.
the real Christmas movie.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. which is a fun. We watch Home Alone. Pretty much all of them, all the first three. Yeah. Not the other ones. The other ones are not actually Home Alone. Yeah. But the first, is it three?
Two.
No, first two, sorry.
Just first two, yeah.
First two, like while we're setting up our Christmas stuff after Thanksgiving every year. So that's kind of like a fun thing. And
we watch Elf every year.
And there's risk with that as well. Like when
like, what if they believe that they're going to be home alone?
That's right. Aiden, maybe or Grayson, one of the two, when they were pretty young, like 3, went over to Cammie's mom's house and called her a horse's ass.
Oh no.
Because Home Alone. So yeah, there's risk. There's risk in any of that stuff. But I think the point is, I think I'm just saying, I don't like the idea of getting so caught up in the cultural aspect of it that you're telling your kids a lie about that kind of stuff. What's that?
Nothing.
No.
I'm just thinking back a few minutes.
Ho ho ho.
Oh.
I really think you should get that costume, Pierce.
Yeah, that's right. Make it happen. I'm okay with Ryan being canceled because of the scenario. I don't need to bring myself into it. And he can dress up as Fat Albert.
All I said was ho ho ho.
That is not what you said.
But how did you say it?
I was inspired by Fat Albert. I watched that cartoon growing up.
That was a great
Black
cartoon.
Albert.
Yeah.
It was a great cartoon.
Yeah, oh shoot, I lost it. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so you introducing the podcast, introducing this episode, Ryan, talking about like how can we partake in like cultural Christmas things and make our aim still be the glory of God and make the aim about Jesus. We've talked about different practical things for sure in the midst of that. And so like even with, I think you guys have basically said this, but I'll just add it again, I guess. Even with us striving to navigate well the culture we're in, the movies we'll see, the conversations that Riley will have at school and with her friends and things like that, like even learning how to navigate that, like my goal isn't like, how can I tiptoe or argue or change or like whatever it may be. Like my goal isn't the culture, my goal is still Jesus. Will that affect culture? Absolutely. Will it affect the people around? Absolutely. But I don't need to so focus so hard on like, I'm not doing Santa Claus that that's my aim. My aim is Jesus.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, we can watch the movies, we can do the things, whatever. Like, and I think for some people, like, so like for instance, with Home Alone, like there's going to be things in your own kids' lives that may be more influential on your kids than others, or less influential on your kids than other kids. So like, I'm not trying to paint a picture of like, no, you have to watch Claus this Christmas. Like, I'm not saying, I think you're going to apply a mentality of, I want to glorify God in this season and make Christ and proclaim the birth of our Savior well to my family. And sometimes it's going to look different in your household as it will other households. And like, you might have some kids that are more sensitive or less sensitive to certain things happening. So like, how can you glorify God in the midst of your family? And that takes intentionality. Like, I don't care to give a list based off how I've done it or how you guys have done it. I think we can learn from another in community, but how can we apply, okay, I want my kids to know this is about Jesus. Yeah. And how can you make that effective within your household?
I think my concern is like the people who come out of the woodwork to, like you said, kind of everything's about combating culture. And they're like, it's about Jesus. It's about Jesus. I would argue that they're probably inconsistent. Because they're making, this week or a couple of weeks about Jesus, but really if we're followers of Christ, our lives should be about Christ. So I'd argue that the flip is true as well, that if you really struggle with making Christmas season a reflection on Christ, you probably really struggle in your day-to-day life. You probably are struggling in June of making your day-to-day life
or they
about
just
Jesus.
Don't.
Yeah. And so
it's only at Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you are someone whose aim is Jesus, I think the point is that your aim is Jesus, whether it's the middle of the summer or whether it's.
And I think if we want to influence culture, then let's stop trying to change culture's perspective in their own minds, and let's start celebrating Jesus as believers, where the culture sees it. Well, I'm just thinking, even like at Christmas, like if believers, if their whole life was like the light of Jesus during the season, if what they talked about was, man, it's so great to celebrate the birth of like that. Then that begins to influence culture, because now they're seeing there are actually people who are actually celebrating the birth of Jesus. Yeah. Where we can influence culture from that perspective, rather than saying, I got to change the way that you culture think about it.
Right. Yeah. We become the force of change rather than just trying to change somebody else's mind. Yeah. And we do it by being people who are convinced of it in our own minds, that this is about Christ. Yeah.
Dope.
Which means I can't go to the stores.
Yeah.
You're like, I will not represent Jesus well at the stores.
Yeah. And there's some people that thrive in those environments, man, which is insane to me. It blows my mind. But there's some people that go there and they're just happy as can be the whole time. In the
I
midst
don't
of
like
that
stores
chaos.
on a Saturday now.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
Especially when there's always someone trying to sell me something outside of Walmart on Saturdays.
Gosh.
Oh, dude, I talked to your son the other day about that. Like, I don't know why that frustrates me so much. Not them as an individual, just the fact that it's happening. Like, why are we okay? Like, I need to go here. The biggest one that upsets me is the AT&T stand at Sam's.
I never walk past it.
I intentionally avoid it. Like, I hate that you're here. Like,
I walk right by them.
I bet, yeah. Well, and there's one time, like, because they put all the seasonal decorations on the opposite side of that stand. And so during the Halloween season, Riley, we don't own any like Halloween inflatables or anything, but she gets so excited to see like the goofy skeletons and the scarecrow little thing, like little blow ups. And so, and plus they're massive, they're huge. And so she's so excited to go see those inflatables. And so we're standing right by them. And this woman who like was the worst, like just there's nothing about the way she interacted with me that was appealing whatsoever. She was just like, hey, what's your phone service? That's no joke how she asked it. And I was like, we just switched over to Mint Mobile and we really enjoy it. And she goes, okay. And then like walks away from me. And I was like, I don't even want to be here right now. I'm just standing near you because my daughter's stoked on these balloon things. Like,
you should ask her, what's your phone service?
What's your phone service? Was it AT&T?
You should have just said your mom.
That's right. But yeah, doesn't frustrate me as much as belt loop or what did we say yours was? Oh yeah, USB.
Oh, USB.
Yeah.
Not
specifically that plug. Yeah.
Yep. It's Mike is right though. That's the math behind it.
Yeah. Which is part of the reason for me. I said it earlier.
I know. Yeah.
I do think that there's a cultural thing I like around Christmas that I would love to continue to implement more is the idea of giving. Like it seems to be like culture kind of is in that perspective. Like there is something about this season that makes us be more giving. And so, I don't think that's a bad idea at all for believers to even be more so giving than other people. Not as a rule, but I just think it's an opportunity for us to really show the love of Jesus.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, which is a really good, like, it's shifting the perspective, as we often say, and we've said a lot this episode, is that culture will tell you, well, it's because of this time of year that you should be giving. But what you're saying, Micah, is like, now we have the opportunity, because where culture is with giving, let's show them how we can actually give with the mindset of Jesus, like with the mindset of Christ. And so, sure, this is what culture does, but there are some Christians that will say, well, that's what we got to do because that's what everybody else is doing. Like, no, let's make it about Jesus.
You know what? I'm wondering too, like, maybe a shift for us as a church is that we encourage people at the 456 to be more giving to each other. Like, one of the things that we probably haven't thought about much is maybe the stress. Like, what if you're a family that has so little that you can't give much to your kids even at Christmas? Like that, there's probably even people at church like that. And so maybe even just like within our assembly, within our church, like being able to say, like, we're gonna be more giving to each other in this time. Like, begin there. You know what I mean? Like, imagine the joy of knowing, like, I'm part of a local church that, like, just dotes on people really well at Christmas. You know, not all the time. We want to be that way all the time, but, you know, especially in this time. There's a story I love from the family that led my dad to Jesus. Lived in Pampa, Texas, the Bruces. They owned a few companies, and mainly a moving company and an oil company. But they would always give, I can't remember if it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, so they would always give away like a big turkey to their employees, all of their employees. Cool. And I think the story goes, one year they had maybe a secretary that was like getting all those, like, the gift bags and the turkeys and stuff together for the employees. And I guess the Bruces had just hired some fairly new people to work at the company, and they told the secretary, you know, get these people a turkey and gift bag as well. And the secretary was like, well, why? They just started working here. Like, why do they get the same thing the rest of us get, even though they just started working here?
See where this is going.
And the Bruces were like, no, they get the same thing because they're part of us. Like, anyway, so it was just like this cool reflection, I think, of that same heart of giving. Like, this isn't about, you didn't earn this turkey. I mean, it's so much like the story of the workers. Like, I'm giving as I choose. It's mine. I choose what I'm gonna give it. It's just like it's such a fantastic perspective. We used to, I don't know if you remember this, Pierce, but we used to have college students, probably your age, when they were in college, tell me and Ryan, I can't wait till I have money someday so I can be more giving. And we would always tell them, like, probably how generous you are now with the little you have is probably a reflection of how generous you're going to be someday when you have more. And I think that generosity is an opportunity for us to proclaim Jesus well, especially during this season. If Mr. Beast can dig water wells, you know what I mean? Like, and as far as I know, he isn't a believer.
Yeah, probably not.
So anyways, I was just thinking of, like, other ways to, like, bring glory to Jesus in this season.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh.
Wow, Micah. That's
so.
offensive.
Do you guys have anything else to add to Christmas and glorifying God? I feel like we covered a bunch of
I think it's just perspective,
and I think a simpler viewpoint would be don't bake your kids with the cookies.
Just don't do it, man.
I don't feel like I said that. Now I got to go back and listen to that.
The way I heard it was,
you said we put them in the oven,
and then the kids eat them.
Well, you said something about the cookies and the kids before that, and then you said we put them in the oven.
Yeah.
We knew what you meant, but
it's just funny.
Sorry, I think I heard like you had, like the kids bringing them out of the oven. But I misheard it as like the kids come out of the oven or something like that. And I was like, that's silly. The oven children try to snatch up the cookies, and you got to beat the oven children.
Do you not have children that come out of your oven and try to drag you in there and then bake you
on a daily basis?
It sounds like a Halloween story.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Like the back side of the oven goes into Hansel and Gretel's, the witch's home. Like it's a portal.
There's an episode of Gumby where they do that. Not specifically the
Chronicles of Narnia has a wardrobe that leads you to Narnia, but I have an oven that leads me to
to the pits of hell. There's an episode of Gumby. I haven't seen the original episode. I've seen the overdubbed episode.
Gumby,
yeah, you remember the claymation show?
I totally.
Do you remember
know.
you were there when it was made?
I know.
But their oven, they try to bake some cookies or some bread or something, and then the dough just like goes wild. The clay goes everywhere, and so he's like, "Well, I saw a dubbed version." So he's like, "Man, what's going on over there?" So they gotta go over there, and they open it up, and then they clear out all the dough, and then there's something in the oven. And they say, "Who's that?" He's like, well, "I don't know." And they climb into the oven, and they go into they like find this factory of all these different. It's wild. It feels like a trip for sure. But the dubbed version, it probably was. The dubbed version's really funny, but it
probably
is
don't show that to your kids because then they're going to start going into ovens.
Yeah, I know. Which is funny for like the 40s to be showing cartoons like that. Like, wait a minute, there's fun things in the oven. Just toss that open and jump in there. So speaking of Christmas, I think we've done it, man. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. There, like we've said earlier, or we've said throughout the episode, there's a lot of things culturally, a lot of things with traditions specific to families and specific to where you are in the world. We're curious for you guys as listeners and watchers, like where do you stand on that? Like, are you someone who still does Santa, but it's more in the way of kind of what we were talking about earlier? Are you someone who actively avoids anything traditionally?
This will be the last podcast.
Yeah, we're closing out in 2023. We're just done. What are your traditions? I make the Chex Mix every year for our house. We make cheese log every year. So we have food traditions, and actually selfishly send me your food tradition recipes because I want to try out new things.
If you guys need charcuterie boards for your cheese logs,
there we go.
Hit the website, onyxwoodworks.com.
Onyx Woodworks. That's in the show notes. Go check out Micah's Woodworks. Charcuterie boards, coasters, and all the sizes in between those things.
We'll
right?
keep adding more stuff.
Yeah. Awesome.
Trying to do some brisket boards, like giant cutting boards for like steaks and briskets.
Awesome. Dope. Well, hey. We're at the Garden Audio as always. Go check out Steven. Him and his wife's realty team is at 87 Realty Group. The reason why I say it that way is because the Guardian Audio social media is no more, but you can still reach out to him through him and his wife's realty team called 87 Realty Group. Go see what's going on over there. Shoot them a message. Say, Steven, thank you for the podcast. And hey, tell him Merry Christmas. Merry More Christ. Tell him that too. Oh my gosh! Wow. I thought I missed it. Then I went to go talk, and it just came out. Golly, I apologize for that. Right in the microphone.
Here's a burp for you.
Good thing this is just my microphone, right?
It was a pretty quiet.
It was, but I thought,
quiet microphone, quiet burp.
I thought I blocked it, man. I thought I finished it. Anyway, so we're at simplerpod on social media as well. Go give us a follow, all that fun stuff. And hey, we hope you guys have a great Christmas, have a great time. We look forward to keeping the simpler community going into the new year. We're stoked on it. And hey,
minus
as
one
always,
person.
Exactly. As always, keep Christ as core. What could be simpler than that?
That was so good.